All right. Look at me. I am a robot. I don't know why I'm doing that. Just seemed like an interesting intro in that moment. Hello, folks. My name is Chris. Welcome to my weekly live show, The Weekly Spinner Rack. Lovely to have you all here. Let's take a quick look and see who we've got here. But during this show, I will do quick mini reviews of what I read this week. I was like, wait, what do I do on this show? It's been a busy day. I'm going to do some mini reviews of what I read this week, which wasn't much, first of all. Then I will start drawing something. And while I do that, I've got a ton of comic book news. So that's what will sort of balance it out. Not too much to review. Lots to talk about for comic book news. And I'll be taking your questions. Let's take a look at who's in the chat. I'm seeing Scott, my sister Jean, S. Partita, Mike, Marvin Nation, Ashley Buck, Andrew Jefferson, Tony Michael, Miguel, Ganho, Ricky Prickles, Aaron Lee, Jada Prague, and I know I missed a bunch of people that were there even before that. Just love to give some shout outs to people that show up here right as the show begins. Sincerely appreciate you being here, folks. Bear with me. I'm just realizing that the comics from last week are just sort of piled up here, and I'm gonna just sort of set these aside because we're moving on. It's time for a new week. Hello, Daniel. Nice to see you here. Hello, Keith and Jesse. I don't know anything about any leaks, Miguel. Sorry. Hello, Moritaka. Hello, Troy. Lovely to have you folks here. Appreciate it. Man, I'm like sort of looking at myself on the camera. I never quite realized just how much light I have coming down here. It almost makes me look bald. You can't see my good hairline. I've got a good hairline, but I've got light-colored hair. I've got so much light coming, it almost makes me look like I'm balding. Oh, well. Maybe I am. I'm getting older. We all are. Hello, Zoe. Hello, Sean. Lovely to have you here. Oh, man. This morning, I started my day with, like, a little bit of pain. I usually shave in the shower. I've got like a fogless mirror. I've got like my, shaving cream and my razor in the shower. So I just do it all at once, right? Hold on, I'm going to pause. I'm going to tell you this story in a sec, but I do want to acknowledge, thank you so much, Jerf E, for that generous super chat. Many hellos, Chris and chat. Well, isn't that nice? Jerf is saying hello to all of you as well. Sincerely appreciate that. Sincerely do. That means a lot to me. It really, really does. Thank you. It makes a difference in my life. So I'm shaving, right? And I hadn't shaved in like 3 days because just whatever these days. I swear, ever since the pandemic, I just, whatever. I'll shave when I feel like it. And there was like a little patch of hair here. And instead of just like cutting it like, and no big deal, like it just slides, it got caught and the razor slid across. And yeah, I cut myself across the neck. It did not feel good. I was glad that I was in the shower because, like, you just keep putting like warm water on it and eventually it sort of clots up faster, it seems like. I don't know if that's true or not, but it felt like that. But boy, so I've still got like some sort of irritation here. It feels like really sensitive and like hot there. So that wasn't a fun way to start the day, but it just means that, hey, I'm here now. This is like one of the highlights of my week, getting to chat with all of you. I always love drawing. I love talking comics. Let's get into it. Last week, first of all, I was drawing Doctor Strange with sort of his, Arms of Vishnu look from the movies. And I hadn't finished it, but yesterday at work, I took this piece with me to work on during my lunch break. I'm just erasing some underlying pencil work I realize is still here. And I finished it, so just showing you. I decided to like finish all the other arms and everything. So that was actually fun. I really liked how this turned out. I decided to, instead of drawing the arms like just quite literally, giving him like, an additional 14 arms and hands, I had penciled it out like that. But then I decided to just sort of do this technique where I was like drawing more almost exclusively horizontal to sort of imply like motion and a blur and just sort of this ethereal idea of the extra arms. Personally, I kind of like how that came out, so I just thought I'd show. That's why you're sticking to electric razors. Don't blame you at all. Don't blame you at all. But let's get into it. I always start off talking about what I read in the past week. And this week was very, very light. Maybe that's making up for the fact that last week, if you watched last episode, like 2 fantastic comics topped a big list of comics. I thought that the Reckless book by Brubaker and Phillips was incredible, and my pick of the week was Asadora Volume 5 by Naoki Urasawa. This week, super light. Next week, it looks like I've got something about like maybe up to 11 books that I'm probably going to get. So, but this week, guess what I read? 2. Just 2 books. First of all, I had bailed on Hulk, but I decided to pick this issue up just because I kind of like this variant cover here. Minor spoilers. This is a new sort of Hulk. I don't know that we can quite call it a villain, although maybe someday that it will evolve into a villain. This is a new version of the Hulk, and it's called Titan. The premise is, what if the Hulk had his own Hulk? Hulk gets pushed to like this sort of next level anger and everything, and he turns into this 30-foot beast with like basically mountains on his shoulders called Titan. I can't say after reading this that the story hooked me any more than it had before. The premise is pretty weird, and I give Donny Cates, the writer, credit for coming up with such a unique, weird idea. Where do I see that? How do I explain this? There's a page here that will explain it. Okay. The Hulk is now divided into 3 parts. The Hulk, as his body, is now called Starship Hulk, and it's piloted... this is the Hulk, sorry. And it's piloted by Bruce Banner's consciousness in something he calls the command deck, and it's powered by the psyche of the Hulk in what's called the engine room. And so basically Bruce Banner, as he needs more strength, just pisses off the Hulk's psyche in the engine room, has him fight a bunch of bad guys, and that makes the Hulk body stronger. But it's being piloted by Bruce Banner's consciousness. And whatever. He's like in another dimension is the short version of this story. And the Hulk is pushed to like sort of his breaking point, and he becomes what they call Titan. We'll see if that becomes a part of Hulk's mythology on an ongoing basis. But it is definitely a big development for Hulk, and I just like the cover, so I picked it up. I do like Ryan Ottley's work. You know, it's fun. Joe Dent, thank you so much for your super chat. He's saying, hello, Chris, and everybody in the chat. It's nice to see you all. Joe, it's lovely to see you here, buddy. Thank you so much. Or, as you might say, right? Cheers? I believe is the phrase over there in jolly old. Anyway, you know, it's take it or leave it. Sometimes Hulk can be just big and dumb, like huge monsters fighting, and that is a valid take on things. It does not all have to delve into Bruce Banner's psyche. On a deeper level, you know, this is just using it as a plot device, and that's fine, but whatever. So that's a new villain in Hulk, okay? He looks like a bootleg Doomsday, says Black Phoenix. Yeah, in some ways, I guess you're right. He sort of does look like that. He doesn't quite have the bony protrusions, but he does have, like, sort of spiky head and back and shoulders, and he's got claws. So whatever. That's the newest in Hulk. The only other new book I picked up was issue 10 of The Good Asian. It's a crime book set in 1920s Chinatown, San Francisco. This issue basically wraps up the first arc that's been going for almost a year. Probably too much to really explain. I'd be giving you the entire backstory at this point. It's good. I do like the main character, Edison Hark. He's a good, hard-boiled detective. It's a good mystery. The art is great. No question there. It fits the genre very well. It's a lot. This issue, since it's wrapping everything up and it's a mystery, we're dealing with a ton of exposition, folks. And I'll be honest, like, it's so many names and stuff, it sort of confused me. This would read so much better as a trade. That's just sometimes how a comic book reads best, right? When it's really complex, Sometimes you need to read the whole story all at once. A whole month break in between. Sometimes it can really be confusing. It's good. I would recommend getting this in trade paperback format if you haven't read it yet. I think that would be the most satisfying way to read that story. Those are the only two new things I got. Yeah, I agree. Andrew Jefferson says, Edison Hark sounds like a good detective name. It is. Do you know Ryan Ottley personally or just Robert Kirkman? No, I know Ryan. I know Robert a lot better, but I've met Ryan Ottley in person a handful of times. I'm sure he knows who I am too, but are we on a regular talking basis or anything? No, I can't say that. But if I bumped into him at a convention, I would absolutely say hello. It would be awkward not to say hello. So I've met him is all I can really say. I don't know him. I picked up some back issues. All of this stuff is ammunition for future comic tropes episodes, okay? These seem like random issues of G.I. Joe, right? Well, I've made no secret that I love G.I. Joe. I used to have all these issues. I sold most of my collection many years ago, so I'm kind of getting back some of the things that I miss. I got these issues because I'm giving some very serious consideration to doing an episode talking about the process that Larry Hama had to use to write G.I. Joe, because it was very unique for several years. Marvel was hired by Hasbro not just to do the comics, but Marvel used to have an animation division. They did the Sunbow, that's Marvel basically. They did the animated G.I. Joe show. They also, before the show even started, did commercials for the toys. Then some laws were passed where you could only use a small amount of animation in a toy commercial. But there were no such restrictions for using animation for a comic book. So G.I. Joe, very unique, had animated commercials for their monthly comic book. I wanted to sort of delve into that because think about it. Animation takes time. Comics, it's like a constant grind. You got to just, boom, keep churning them out and stuff. But what if you had to make sure that every several issues, that particular issue that was being advertised matched up with what the animation had already determined would be coming out? So basically, they would be like, okay, here's the new toy or action figure. Here's the ad for it. Like a 30-second animated ad. And instead of saying buy the toy, they would say buy the comics. But of course, they really, these marketers and the Hasbro executives, they expected kids would be smart enough to say, oh, they're showing me this new character or this new vehicle. They clearly want me to go out and get that. But they were technically advertising the comic. What that meant was that Larry Hama had to see these storyboards, and he had to make that part of the comic so that the animation was actually advertising the correct thing. He had his own ongoing stories, but every several issues there was an animated commercial for it, from issue 1 through about issue 80 or 90. I have to double check. It's a long run of animated commercials to sort of keep feeding into the narrative. And I thought that might be an interesting topic to talk about, like how you'd have to sort of write around a certain element getting put into every several issues. A lot of us have read this book. It's great. Mark Waid, Alex Ross, Kingdom Come. The DC universe set in the sort of near future, with it being a commentary on the grim and gritty 90s books and whether that was still relevant or anything. And then this particular collection has a lot of excellent supplementary material. It's just a 4-issue story, so only the first half is the comic. I thought that might be something I'd like to talk about. I've never really discussed Alex Ross, and I feel like I might like to examine his techniques with Kingdom Come. So while I had these issues, that was another thing I'd sold. So I picked up the trade paperback of that. Did Hama do artwork for G.I. Joe as well as writing it? To a degree, Andrew. He did draw issue 21, the famous silent issue. Aside from that, he would sometimes do breakdowns, mostly uncredited. He would do breakdowns of like, a cover idea or sometimes certain pages that he was writing. So sort of, yeah. Only one issue that I can think of where he's credited as the full artist, and that would be 21. But anyway, I'd love to talk about Alex Ross's work, and that might be a good source for that. I've always loved Mike Allred, and this is one of those Modern Masters volumes, which sort of just gives you a lot of the artist's history, has a lot of interviews with the creator, discussing their work and their techniques. Obviously, that would all be super valuable to me if I was trying to discuss some techniques or a piece of history about an artist. It's too much to say, like, hey, I'm trying to boil all this down, but, this will definitely give me some good, like, fact-checking information. So that's a lot to read, honestly, about a whole career, but, yeah, I just have always loved Mike Allred's sort of, I don't know what I'd call it, like pop art, sort of 60s influenced art style. There's an energy to it, but there's also personality. Like, you can definitely tell Mike Allred's work from anybody else's. So I thought that would be an interesting source for that. Clay asks, did Larry Hama do the info cards on the back of the toys? Yes, he absolutely did. At least most of them. At a certain point, and some of them, like Hasbro executives did, you can kind of tell on some of them. You can tell Larry Hama's writing style versus some of the more generic ones. But yeah, he wrote those file cards that used to be on the back of the action figures for, at least like 8 or 9 of the 12 or 14 years. He created a lot of the characters. I've also been rereading Usagi Yojimbo, because I'd love to do an episode about Stan Sakai. He's won so many awards, and yet I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know him that well, or at least his work that well. I'd love to do an episode that really does a deep dive on what makes his work special, and maybe help direct some people towards these books. Yeah, he's won Eisners and Harveys and all sorts of great awards. And the last thing I picked up for a back issue was I came across this copy of Avengers number 16. It's a pretty famous issue where it's the first time that there's a new Avengers team. This issue, if you can't tell, is in pretty rough shape, but that's why I could afford it, because this would normally be a very expensive comic book. It's intact. It's got all its pages. It's just had a lot of like wear and tear. I would estimate this is somewhere around like, maybe a 3.5 or so. So it still wasn't cheap per se, but it was affordable. And normally I don't get a lot of comics that are this beaten up, but I loved this era of Avengers, and it I don't know, it just struck me as like, wow, I could afford like a really cool old Avengers issue from the 60s that was pretty important. And so yeah, I was kind of excited to pick that up. This introduces what was known as Cap's Kooky Quartet, because almost all the Avengers just sort of retired, and Captain America took on 3 former supervillains, Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch. So for a moment, it was just the 4 of them as the Avengers. Iron Man and Thor left, Wasp and Giant Man left. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Black Phoenix mentions that you only know Usagi Yojimbo from his multiple appearances on the Turtles cartoons. And the cool thing about that is that they would cross over in each other's comics, too. So this is, an omnibus of, like, some early stories. And let me just go a few pages in here. And where is it? There, yeah. Some Ninja Turtles appear. The Ninja Turtles get transported to Usagi's world, where it's hard to explain. It's like feudal Japan. The characters are all animals, but they're all the same size. They wear clothes, and they still ride horses, so other animals sort of exist. It's pretty weird when you try to, like, and the turtles, like, comment on it. They're like, wait, why is a bunny the same size as a rhino? And they're like, well, at least we wear clothes. And the Ninja Turtles are like, okay, good point. So yeah, there was always a good relationship between Stan Sakai and Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. The Good Asians covers are awesome. I've been tempted to buy an issue, but I held back. Yeah, well, let me jump back there to just say that those are by Dave Johnson, and I adore Dave Johnson's artwork. He is a master artist. Mostly really just does covers at this point because, he doesn't need to do a monthly grind on interiors. So he does a lot of covers in comics, and he works a lot in the animation, which pays pretty well. But any Dave Johnson artwork, I am pretty much there for. He's just got a great style. He's clean. He's crisp. He's got an incredible layout sense. I don't know. And it's not like I'm saying this is like the be-all, end-all of Dave Johnson's work. It's just what I have in front of me. I love Dave Johnson's work. I love it, love it, love it. I've got a couple of original pieces by him. All right, so at this point, that's all I had to talk about for the comics that I picked up in the past week. Always love to hear in the chat what you guys have picked up lately and why and what stands out to you. But I'm now going to ink a drawing, and one thing I realize I've never really shown you is how I get to this point. This is what I'm inking. This is already on Paris paper, and you've probably noticed that most of the time the line work is already pretty clean. The stages it goes through is, first I get just any old piece of paper. This is just like typing paper, and rough it out. It's just a lot of shapes. And then I lightbox. Excuse me, I have hiccups. And then I lightbox it to get something cleaner. So it's it starts as that. You can sort of see the main important elements of it. And then I just lightbox it to get there. And then I ink it to try to make it clean. Because what I like to do on this show is inking. I can sort of do while I still talk about news, talk with you all, answer questions, etc. I can't really. I've learned I can't really focus on coming up with a drawing whole scratch, from nothing, and talk. My brain cannot do both of those things at once. I end up concentrating on the drawing and get really quiet, and that's a bad show. That's not an interesting show. So mostly on this, I just try to work on learning some inking techniques while chatting with you all. Let's see. Stan Sakai does really deep dives into feudal Japanese culture and technology and works it into the stories to be as authentic as possible. That's the great thing. Usagi Yojimbo is completely fictional, but it is in a way historical fiction. It's very accurate in terms of the culture and what was happening historically in Japan. Usagi Yojimbo is based off of a real samurai from the time, Miyamoto. I forget his last name. Anyway, I'd have to look it up, but I'll do an episode soon. I don't want to see the crazy TMNT porn that Joe Dent mentions happens to be online. But here's the cool thing. So, not much to review for comics, but there was a lot of news this week. So let me pull up what I have to make notes for myself, but we'll get into talking about the news. I'll keep looking up every once in a while to take your questions, and we'll just take it from there. Let's see, what do we got here? Let's start with a fairly big piece of news here as I just try to lay in my first lines. Bone by Jeff Smith. Great comic. I've obviously done an episode about it. I love it. It seems like it's ideally suited for an animated adaptation because of Jeff Smith's animated style artwork. And it's been in development at different places over the years, and it always falls apart. But we all really thought that this latest version was going to happen, which was going to be at Netflix. Well, if you've been paying attention to the news, you may already know. First of all, Bone at Netflix has been canceled. Honestly, most of the animation projects at Netflix has been canceled. It's a bummer. Jeff Smith made a pretty funny cartoon about it on his Twitter. It was like sort of comparing himself to Charlie Brown trying to kick the football that Lucy always pulls away at the last minute. You know, he never learns. And he's like, I guess I just don't learn. You know, maybe I should stop trying. Yeah, it's frustrating because Netflix felt like it could have been a good home for Bone, but it's not happening. And some of that, if you're not up to date, is Netflix had a terrible, terrible, terrible quarter. In the last quarter, they lost over 200,000 subscribers, which is a big amount. It kind of tanked their stock when they announced the facts of like their latest quarter. And one thing that's really a bummer about this isn't even just like the projects that we're losing. It's what's happened to their employees. A lot of the employees that have been there for a while get paid to a degree in stock options, which has always been pretty valuable until this quarter. Now a lot of those employees have some stock that really tanked hard and is not worth very much. And just think of what that would do to your confidence and your work ethic, like working at a place, if all of a sudden a big part of your salary was now kind of worth next to nothing. That's gonna cause a ripple effect at Netflix. Having like these employees be so discouraged. So it stinks. It stinks. I love Bone. I love it. And I'm glad we've got the comic. You know, at the end of the day, we've got the comic, and that's what's most important. But I think an animated version could be a lot of fun, and I think it would also put a lot of new eyeballs onto the comics, which would be great. But anyway, that is just not happening now. That has been officially canceled. Meanwhile, there is a version of an animated Usagi Yojimbo cartoon that is still going to have its first season come out, but I would be stunned if it ends up getting any more than that with the latest news. And technically, that's not a full adaptation of the comic so much as it uses the characters and it places them in a futuristic sci-fi world. Yeah, Lumberjanes would be a cool animated show. Totally agree. What non-Big Two comic should get animated series movie in your opinion? Asks every 1 million. What non-Big Two comic should get animated? Oh man, it would be cool to see something like Radiant Black animated. That's a very recent one. I think that could make for a good animation after we've seen what like Amazon can do with Invincible, which I think is really, really strong. I think Radiant Black would make a very good animated show. I think what else would be kind of cool? Maybe something like by James Herron, like Ultra Mega. That could make for a really badass animated show. Yeah, there's a bunch. Come on, Amazon, come in and make an offer for Bone. Yeah, that would be nice. Let's see, Moritaka says, it would upset me less if it was canceled live action adaptation because I think animation is the perfect medium to adapt animation. I don't quite understand all of that, but yeah, I do think that, let's see, that it would work very well as an animated project. Anyway, kind of a bummer. Some things just aren't meant to be, I guess. Let me change my angle here so that I can see if I'm centering things right for you guys. Okay, yeah, looks good. Let me grab a quick drink of water, and I'll continue with news and comments and art. We're going to have a great show today. Lawrence has a good idea. Gru would be great animated. Boy, it would be. I wonder who would do a good voice for Gru. It would have to be somebody with kind of a deep voice or something, like a Ray Romano. Oh, it's hard being a barbarian. She's very flexible. This is my take on Catwoman, who I think is pretty well known for being flexible. I just realized I started sketching in something with pencil and never quite finished it. I was thinking I'd put in her whip as sort of like a belt almost. Bear with me. I'm just going to do something here to sort of make that a reality. Yeah. Just have it as though she sort of puts it into some sort of a belt clip or something and just keeps it around her waist. Whoa! Look at this big super chat. I don't even know how much that is because I don't know the exchange rate from Canadian dollars to American, but I know that's a lot. CB says, does it help you more on this channel to watch the streams live or catch them once they have been fully uploaded? Keep up the hard work. Love the content always. Well, CB, thank you, first of all. That's super kind of you. It doesn't make a massive difference one way or the other, honestly. Yeah, happy to have you here either way. Those they both help. They both help quite a bit. The things that help most for, like, if you want to help a channel on YouTube, it doesn't always have to be, like, monetary. There's a bunch of things you can do to help a channel quite a bit. Watching it all the way through to the end helps. Maybe that's not always an option. Totally get it. But it helps. Hitting like, that helps. Commenting helps. These are all things that you can do for free that when any of those things are done, that improves metrics that YouTube currently cares about. And the better a channel does with comments, with likes, and with watch time, the more likely YouTube is to then recommend that video to completely new people that have never watched an episode of that channel before, or maybe have watched it but haven't subscribed. Subscribing also helps. So those are all things like, you know, maybe you're not in a position where you're like, hey, I can't subscribe to a Patreon, I can't do a super chat. Like, that's totally fine. Like, everybody has a completely different situation, and the value of a show is going to be different to everybody. But, like, doing those things all help a channel when you're willing to. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see what else we have for news. I almost always have to watch these late, but I'm glad to be here live tonight. Glad to have you here, Dan. Appreciate it. Here's another sort of adaptation piece of news. One thing I've been looking forward to is the next Spiderverse animated movie by Sony, because the more I think about it, the more I think that Into the Spiderverse, yeah, that's probably my favorite Spider-Man movie overall. I think it's the best. I wouldn't want to do without the others, but it's just cool. It's funny. It looks good. It's got its own style. Just a good movie. And so I was really excited for the next one, Across the Spider-Verse, technically Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. And that was supposed to come to us this October. Well, unfortunately, Sony has delayed that to next July of 2023. And while I'm not 100% sure how that all works, a lot of like news sources were speculating that it had to do with their latest movie Morbius kind of bombing, so they wanted to give it like more time to sort of like perfect it and promote it properly. I guess I could see that. I don't know. I did see Morbius. I wasn't wowed by it. I thought it was a pretty boring movie more than anything else. That's that. So, yeah, Bagel. that was good. Spider-Verse movie got pushed back. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Comic Tropes was the first comic channel I ever watched. Oh, that's cool. It was the recommendations on the back of Comic Tropes that led me to kayfabe. Yeah, cartoonist kayfabe. It's because I kept watching videos on the 90s dudes here. That's great. I've always tried to do my part to promote other channels. Like, as I've grown, I'm not the biggest channel, but I am bigger than some others. And so I've always tried to take time during live streams, using my social media, etc., to promote other people. And that's why I also do interviews on Comic Tropes, no matter who the interview is. Even with, like, a big name, a popular name, I mean, like, Robert Kirkman or Todd McFarlane. Those are, like, pretty popular creators that people will, like, search out. I'll never get the views on those interviews that I do with, like, my traditional sort of essay videos that are fully edited. That's just the way it is. But I don't care. I want to do it. I want to understand how a creator works when it's a big name, and I want to promote certain up and coming people, or that, like, have a valid project that needs some that could benefit from, like, a push. I literally can't do everything that I get pitched. I get a lot of people that are doing their first Kickstarter or crowdfunded comic, and it's like some of them definitely have value, but they're people that no one's ever heard of, and me doing an interview with them is not the right step right now to help them, and it's certainly not going to help me. So I can't do it all the time, and that's frustrating to a degree. I'd love to help everybody, but it's just not realistic. It's not. I can't do it for everybody, or I'd never do, like, my other episodes, and the channel would just sort of slowly lose viewers and die. That doesn't help anybody. So it's tough. Sometimes I want to do more. But anyway, I don't know how I even got on that topic. Oh, it was because somebody mentioned, like, that they discovered another channel from me. Yeah, Cartoonist Kayfabe is great. Matt Draper is good. Godzilla Mendoza is good. Just like a week ago, I discovered another comic tuber, and I'm trying so hard to remember his name. Joe Dent, I know you subscribe or at least watch it. Like, is it Uncle Jerk or is it Jerk Comics? It's one of those two. He seems to have a good channel for essays. I love Owen Likes Comics. I love NerdSync. I love Michaela Laird. There's so many talented people. I'm not going to be able to list them all. So there's a lot of good comic tubers out there. That said, I don't always watch everything by them, because sometimes it's like a topic. Like, if somebody was doing an episode right now on G.I. Joe or Mike Allred or Stan Sakai, I wouldn't want to watch that, because that's potentially going to influence what I'm developing. But if it's something I've already talked about, or if it's something I'm never going to talk about, yeah, I'm right there. I can't wait to watch it. Hey, Terry. Jerk Comics says no. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point, No. I've only watched about 3 of his things. No says Jerk Comics does essays, but they're very long. I agree. They can't. Like, the ones I've seen have been arguably over long. But whatever. Better over long than too short, in my opinion. Yeah, Black Phoenix mentions Casually Comics and Comic Pop Returns. See, this is why I feel bad. I forget somebody. Of course I love Sal. Sal's a really good guy. He and his crew do some really nice work on Comic Pop. I would say that, like, what I do that's, like, at least different is I'm going to cover any kind of comic, whereas a lot of other channels mostly will cover mainstream stuff, and I do cover mainstream stuff. So it's like, I'm not an indie channel, I'm not a mainstream channel. It's not just new, it's not just old. It's always going to be a mix here. It's going to be everything, because I just love all sorts of comics. Smokey's Videos is a really good channel. I don't know Smokey's. And you know what? I have to admit, I haven't watched Casually Comics yet, but I hear her name come up a lot lately. So that must be somebody on the rise. Obviously, I should find a video that I can watch. I am caught up on Moon Knight, and episode 4 was arguably like the best episode so far. It finally is moving things forward in a fun, interesting way. It changed things up, and so I like that. Oh, I saw The Northman. The Northmen, I should probably pronounce it. It's a new movie that's out. It was pretty badass. Depending on what you're into, like I thought it was pretty cool. Very Shakespearean, actually. That's not always a selling point, I suppose. Not everybody reads Shakespeare, but there's a reason people still read Shakespeare. It's because he could get to the heart of like drama and conflict in a really cool way. So yeah, I do recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it as strongly as I recommended Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is the movie to see these days. That thing is just about perfect. If anything, like, my opinion of it has just gone up since I first talked about it. Anyway, yeah, Robert Eggers has done some great stuff. He hasn't done he's only done like 3 movies, and they've all been really, really good, interesting stuff. The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman. The Witch is probably still my personal favorite, but anyway. Moritaka says, if you ever need a good psychological horror comic, I do like that stuff, do a video on Tokyo Ghoul and its sequel series, Tokyo Ghoul RE. Yeah, I always see that at like the bookstores, so I guess that's popular, huh? How does it compare to The Lighthouse and The Witch? All I can say, T.W. Mangrove, is each of his films is quite different, you know? Although he does share a bunch of the same cast across all of them. I would say that if there's any commonalities across all of those, that it's that it gets to... It all has an element of psychological horror. It all does. But the Northmen can be a lot more sort of brutal than the other things that he's made so far. Although I would say The Witch is the scariest. I went to see Everything Everywhere All at Once a second time this week. It's so amazing. That's so great. That's so great. Have you ever done inking with a brush? Absolutely. Do I have one here? I thought I had a nice brush here. I tried it once or twice on some live streams, not recently. It really slows me down. I'm already going darn slow as it is. Like, with either a quill or with a brush and ink, I just was going so slow that it just was bad for video. It was better for the art, but bad for the video. If that makes sense. Here's how you pronounce my name. T-A-R-I like Atari. Tari like Atari. What did I say, Terry? I meant Tari, sorry. It sucks that The Northmen apparently didn't do very well money-wise, because I've heard nothing but praise from anyone who's seen it. It probably does appeal, I guess, to a smaller audience, but it's only been out for a little while. Every once in a while, a movie does improve after like a week or two, as the word gets out. It strikes me as a movie, like both The Northmen and Everything Everywhere All at Once strike me as movies that like need some word of mouth to really get people interested. What's my favorite design for Catwoman? The one by Darwin Cook with the goggles. Yeah, that's my favorite. I've got lots more news, folks. Usually I have like 6 pieces of news. I got more than that this time. Don't worry. There's plenty of news to talk about. Both Marvel and DC are giving very nice tributes to George Perez. Marvel, I think it was this month, had issue 55 of the Avengers, and it had a page where the Avengers induct George Perez as an honorary member. I like that. Andrew Jefferson, $5 super chat, says Catwoman or Black Cat? This is Catwoman. This is more Catwoman. Just like a simple leather jumpsuit. She's going to have her whip, and it is going to be like with her hair out, because I like how Catwoman has long black hair. There was a Jim Balent version where she had long hair flowing, and actually she had that through like a lot of the 70s. Here's like an older Batman comic, but by an artist that I like, Jim Aparo. It has a cape, which I don't, and a skirt. I don't like that as much, because I like the idea of her being able to do all sorts of gymnastic stuff without like worrying about stuff getting caught in the way. But yeah, anyway. So Marvel did the Avengers tribute, and in June, which is George Perez's birth month, DC has a gigantic 2-page spread that's going to be printed in every issue of their comic, showing Perez and like basically all the characters that he's famous for working on at DC, as well as ones that he's co-created over the years. They all surround him, and they're all illustrated individually by like different great artists that are famous for working with DC. I got just a few of the names. It's a lot. It's a lot. By the way, Andrew, if I didn't say it, thank you very much for that super chat. I don't know if I acknowledged that, but thank you very, very, very much. Some of these artists in this huge 2-page spread: Alex Ross, Jim Lee, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, one of my favorites, Todd McFarlane, Colleen Duran, Dave Gibbons. Dan Jurgens did the entire layout. Just tons and tons of great talent working on that. Tari asks what my thoughts are on Elon Musk buying Twitter. I'm disappointed, to say the least. Disappointed. Almost something like $44 million he spent to acquire Twitter today. It happened. It's going through. And I mean, just think of like all the things that money could have done. You could be a literal superhero with that much money. You could literally food? Yeah, you could literally food people. You could feed almost all the hungry people in the world, or like, you know, at least help your country end homelessness for quite a while. Like, it's so much money, it's almost unfathomable. It literally would be a superpower to just donate that kind of money. And I know, you know, whatever, you can, it's your money, so you're allowed to do what you want with it, but he's stated that like what he wants to do is in the name of free speech, he wants to like loosen up the rules at Twitter. So apparently that means like he's okay with things like hate speech and stuff. He just thinks that like this should all be protected under free speech rules, so like you should be able to say whatever you want. And I just not a fan of that idea. Not a fan at all. It's already a bit of a cesspool a lot of the time. So loosening up what you can say on Twitter, I'm like, dude, they already let people get away with like just making up whatever they want and saying horrible things to one another. Free speech does not mean that like a private company has to give you the right to say whatever you want and can't throttle you. So I've got some very different definitions of what free speech is from Elon Musk. So I'm disappointed. I'm not going to bail right away, because let's actually like see what happens. It is the platform that I've enjoyed interacting with people the most, so I don't want to just bail on it. But I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. Yeah, exactly. Mortaka says hate speech infringes on freedom of speech. But that's not how he sees it. Like he's explained it before. It's a mess. It's a mess. Oh, that's nice to hear. Patrick Daniel says that he met George Perez and that he was super sweet. I've never heard anybody say something bad about that guy. Just an artist that everybody loves. Everybody loves him. And that's awesome. That's just so cool. Let's see what other news I have, because there's a lot of news this week. Image sort of did a whoopsie-doopsie, like, or at least they did something that I'm sure they thought was going to be a hit, and instead it's almost universally hated. So there's a comic that Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn do there called The Secret History of... Let me get it right. The Secret History of the War on Weed. You know, sort of America's war on drugs, and they're just telling a story about that, which is totally a valid topic and cool and everything. Well, Image did a variant cover for it. I don't have a problem with variant covers, but what they did was they put a Bored Ape on the cover, which is one of these NFTs, a non-fungible token, and it's they used one that's owned by one of the management people at Image. That guy's name is Jeff Boyson. He's the director of sales and publishing. I guess if you buy a Bored Ape, you can use it as you see fit. And he put it on the cover of this variant cover. And Image tweeted it out, and I'm sure they thought that like it was going to be the hip new thing. And it got like already over 1,000 quote tweets and over 1,000 responses. And I have not found a single positive one yet. That's all I can say. I scrolled through a lot of them. I was looking like, well, is there any difference of opinion here? No. People were not fans of this. And there were even pros like Evan Dorkin, I remember. And they're going like, this is embarrassing. It's pretty dumb. It's pretty dumb. I have not heard about the Spider-Man leaks. Sorry, I don't know what that refers to. I don't. Good call on Northmen Shakespeare. I'll just say that the legend of Hamlet inspired Hamlet. Oh, was D.W. Dunphy? Do you mean that that story in the Northman, did that exist before the movie? Because if so, I did not know that piece of it. The legend, I didn't realize that was like an existing legend at all. I thought that this was an original story. Did Image do it themselves, or did Duggan and Posehn have a say in it? I think it was Image that did it. I would imagine that Posehn and Duggan had to approve it since it was their book, and it's a creator-owned book. They didn't themselves, like, you know, hire the artist or anything, but just weird, right? Anyway, it didn't go over well with fandom. Whoopsie doopsie. Oh, that's interesting, DW. Thank you so much for telling me about that. I'll look that up, the Legend of Hamlet then. I did not know that. There's definitely elements of Hamlet. I totally saw that with well, anything I say would spoil it if you don't already know Hamlet, I guess. But it totally I thought that they were basing it off of Hamlet, but putting it in a, you know, Viking Scandinavian context but I didn't know that it's actually based on a story that potentially inspired Hamlet. Like, I didn't know about any of that. That makes so much sense, because it definitely felt Shakespearean to me. Eggers went hard with it, but it is a legend that predated Hamlet. That's so cool. I did not know that. That's so cool to learn. I guess it's cool because it makes me feel like I interpreted it correctly, you know, so I feel like proud of myself that I like got it. I just didn't know about any of that. That's so cool. Wow. Huh. It makes sense. I'm just like coming to terms with what I just learned, folks. That like I'm a little surprised. So that like sort of had me speechless a little bit. That I just didn't know that. I thought I would have maybe heard about it somewhere. Would you want me to tell you the leaks? They would be spoilers. No, Michael. Let's not. Tell you what. If I decide I'm curious about it, I'll look into it. I'd rather not put spoilers out here on my show for everybody, if that's okay. Because some people won't want to hear that, and I don't want to like have control over like forcing that information on people. So, thanks for the heads up. I'll probably look into it on a personal level, but I tend to like to, whenever possible, keep spoilers light here. You know, when I'm reviewing the comics, I'm trying not to necessarily give away the ending here and there. I'll give you a gist of what's happening in an issue. When I'm talking about a movie, I'll just sort of say what elements I liked, but I'm trying not to spoil anything here, if that's all right. Okay. Shakespeare took both Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet from older stories. Well, I knew that he did that for certain books. I mean, you know, he based a lot of his books off of historical stuff. Caesar? King Henry? Anyway, yeah. I had no idea that the Northmen was based on Hamlet. And even the name, you can sort of see, like, there's a sound that's similar there. So that totally makes sense. Didn't know about it, though. Thanks for the info. Let me switch, actually, to a fine liner for a few things, because I'm going to give my whip here some texture, and I think that a brush pen is just going to be a little too thick for that. Wow, another super chat. Marvel's Free Comic Book Day issues got leaked online. Oh, did they really? Yeah, so Free Comic Book Day, folks. Let's talk about that for a minute, actually, because you know, really didn't happen to any great extent last year. We were in the height of the pandemic. Who here likes to participate in going to their local comic stores, getting the free comics? Usually a comic store uses that as an opportunity to have a few, like, you know, sales or deals. Tell me about what your stores do. The one I like to visit here, where I live, there's a store in Tacoma, Washington. It's not too far from me. It's called Atomic Comics, and they always do it up so big. You know, beyond ordering a lot of the free comics, a lot, and I'll talk about that too in a moment. They hire local cosplay groups. They to be there, so you get, like, you know, Star Wars and Batman and all sorts of cool things like that. What else do they do? They usually have, like, back issues and graphic novels, something along the lines of maybe 25% off, and they'll have raffles to give away, like, prizes and stuff like that. So, you know, with all the costumes and the sales and, like, tons of free comics, that I just feel like they do a really good job at Atomic Comics in Tacoma. It's always a really big free comic book day. I like that. But tell me, like, what your store does for free comic book day if you go to a comic shop. And by the way, it's interesting, you know, those free comic book day things, the comic book stores do buy those, and they give them away for free, but, you know, they do have to pay for them. The publishers try to print them more or less at cost, but it's not for free. They're given to us for free. It's a tool, but I think it's a cool thing. I love free comic book day. You don't have a local comic shop to visit? That stinks. Another person that lives in a rural area. Meow Nian, nice to see you. I think one of my local comic book stores... Whoops, it went too fast for me. I'm going to scroll back for a minute. Where is this? I think one of my local comic stores tried selling them for low prices. Oh, that's kind of defeats the purpose a little. They usually set up tables for local comic creators, or set up back tables or $1 comics at King Yeedy's store. That's cool. Olympic Card and Comic for older role-playing game books and free comics. That's nice. Where I'm from, Free Comic Book Day is not the same as in the U.S., says Miguel. I only have 2 shops, and that's because I'm in the capital, and they only have to tell the stores... Oh, and they only... You have to tell the stores in advance if you want a comic. Okay, so they just can't order tons. It's probably more expensive to import it. Black Phoenix says he's going to go to Free Comic Book Day later this year. Okay. Good. It's May 7th, folks. Saturday, May 7th. Oh, I love Del Close, Michael. I love improv. I used to do improv. That's how I know Ken Jeong. We used to do improv together and stand up and stuff like that. That's how I met Dr. Ken back in the day, back in the 90s, before he was ever a TV and movie actor. So I definitely know all about Del Close. I'm also a big fan of, there's a really great improv guy. Oh, hold on. I'm blanking on Matt Besser. And Matt always talks up Del Close. I don't know Wasteland, though. I'll have to look that up. I don't know about that. That's cool. Yeah, man. Matt Besser was so nice to me. Back before I ever did this, like YouTubing and stuff, I used to have a TV-based podcast where I'd talk up, like, we'd sort of talk about the news of the week within, like, genre TV shows, sci-fi and fantasy type stuff, my friends and I, and then we'd review the shows that we saw that week. And I'd also do interviews. And our show was actually pretty successful. It was on Scott Aukerman's channel Earwolf for a season of a contest, the Earwolf Podcast Challenge. And Matt Besser was the host of that, and he always said some really nice things about my show while we were on it. And then he came on as a guest later. So Matt's always been really, really kind to me. Anyway, that just felt like I just name dropped now that I think of it. Sorry, that wasn't my intent. It was just sort of talking about how he loves Del Close, and yeah, I do too. There's a lot of cool things to say about Del Close. I didn't know that he did a comic called Wasteland, so I'll look into that. I work Free Comic Book Day with my local shop. It's a lot of fun. Oh, nice. Very nice. How was it watching Community, knowing Ken personally? At the beginning, during the first few episodes of season 1, a little surreal. It's always a little surreal whenever I see him in anything. If I see him in, like, Transformers 3, right? And I'm like, that's so weird to see my friend getting killed by a Decepticon. He was promoting a movie one time and he got thrown out of the WWE ring by John Cena. And I'm like, this is just so weird seeing, like, my buddy, like, it's sometimes hard to reconcile in a way. You're just like, that's... He's playing a version of himself. That's not the guy I necessarily know, and it's cool, and I'm happy for him, and it's great, and it's just surreal. It never isn't. It never isn't. Wasteland is a horror anthology comic by Del Close and John Ostrander. I always like Ostrander, so that's cool too. They didn't want to do monsters or usual horror tropes. The artist for V for Vendetta did some of it. Wow, I'll have to look up Wasteland. That's so cool to learn. Jeez, I'm learning cool things today. I'm learning about Wasteland. I'm learning that, like, the Northmen was based on an older legend than Shakespeare, but wow. Imagine if Ken Jeong was in the chat the whole time. He's a pretty busy guy, so I don't think so. We talk every once in a while. I'll text him every once in a while just to say, like, hey, what's up? And you know what? To his credit, he always answers back. So, we're in touch. But I know better than to ask favors of him at this point because he's just on another level. He's a superstar. It's very weird seeing your friends become successful, like, Robert Kirkman and Ken Jeong, people like that. I've got others. Because you're like, wow, I was there before this person was famous. Could I have made some different choices in my life to have been in that position that they're in right now? You just wonder. But I'm happy for them all. I think ultimately there's something in me that is attracted to people with ambition and talent. There must be, because I don't feel like everybody out there has, 5 or 6 millionaire friends and is just like living their own life. Like how I don't know. Weird. Jamil, we actually started the show talking about that. Like, yeah, it stinks that that Bone was canceled. I personally would still love to see it animated, so I hope Jeff Smith doesn't give up on that idea. We'll see. Ken Jeong is a doctor. He has not maintained his credentials at this point in time, but when I met him, he was doing his residency at I think it must have been Oxnard in New Orleans when I was in college, and we became friends because we just did stand-up and improv together, and would just hang out. We had the same friends, and we became friends, and he's a really great guy. What is your favorite movie, Catwoman? My favorite movie, Catwoman. I would say that the most accurate version might be the one from Dark Knight Rises, Anne Hathaway. Accurate to the comics at the time is maybe what I'm trying to say. But that is debatable. I definitely hear out arguments for different Catwomans. In some ways, I think Michelle Pfeiffer's from Batman Returns might be my favorite performance as Catwoman. Her origin was kind of dumb and stuff in that movie. Falling out of a building and getting licked back to life by cats, whatever. But she looked cool. She acted like Catwoman. It was cool. I think that the one in the Batman by what's that actress's name, folks? It's not coming to me right now. But the Batman might have had the most depth of any Catwoman, like on screen. Mian Mian, thank you for the super chat. Says, I have an art club and I brought in traditional pen and inks for the kids to try. Any advice and tips about traditional pen inking and modern pens for the kids? Depending on how old they are and if they're not going to necessarily destroy them, I would just say that Pigma Microns are a pretty solid place to start, or Sakura brush pens. They're not the most expensive. Let me think. There's a website here that I can recommend. Let me just make sure. I'm just plugging it into my phone to make sure that I'm remembering the address correct before I just blurt it out. Yeah, Jet Pens. JetPens.com has great prices for bulk orders of inking pens. So you can look up brush pens, samplers, all sorts of things like that. Jet Pens, you could probably get a bunch in bulk at an affordable rate for kids. Zoe Kravitz, thanks everybody. Please don't feel uncomfortable expressing thoughts about yourself. I think I'm pretty open about things here. Halle Berry Catwoman wasn't the best. No, Tari, I agree. Won't 100% blame Halle for that, because she has done good performances, but her movie was among the worst superhero movies out there, in my opinion. Pretty bad. Not so good. I'll be right with you. I've got tons more news to talk about. What else? Let me plug some stuff for myself. Right in the middle, where everybody will catch it. Not at the beginning, not at the end. Let me plug a couple things for myself. One of the drawings that I did on this show, I believe is going to be printed. I did a pinup drawing on one of these episodes for Daniel Warren Johnson's Do a Powerbomb. He reached out to me and asked for a high-res file, so I think he might be printing some fan art in the back. I don't know how big that might be. Maybe it'll be like, 5 or 6 images in one page or something, but I doesn't matter. I'm going to do that. So, little plug, check out Do a Powerbomb when it comes out. And then I have another thing to plug, but let me acknowledge this great super chat from Josh Padilla with the atrocitus Red Lantern as his avatar. Let's see. Just watch your Comic Tropes interview with Nick Patera. He has brought up how he uses Procreate. I was wondering if you had ever considered doing a video on the different methods of comic drawing. I have considered that, Josh. It's a tricky thing to, figure out how I would, craft that into a narrative that could still only be, 20 or 30 minutes, because I feel like there's so many different ways to draw. So I haven't cracked that one at all yet. I have no idea how I would tackle, a topic like that. Have I considered it, was your question. I've absolutely considered it. How would I do it? I don't know. I'm totally confused as to how I would do that. Very hard to figure out. Very hard to figure out. But never say never. It might be that it's more of a series that I do at a certain point, How drawing has evolved and tools that get used most commonly and why. But still. Have I ever messed around with digital art on a tablet? Oh, all the time. Back in the day, I did most of my drawing on an art tablet, but since I moved into this house a couple years ago, I haven't really broken it out. But my wife did buy me a nice tablet here that I really need to use. Let me show it to you, because she deserves credit for all the nice things she does for me. Bear with me, I'm just moving some comics. My wife bought me this nice, it's called Huon, and this is a tablet where you actually see what you draw while you draw it on the tablet, as compared to looking up at the screen while you're drawing. So at some point I might be able to set this up and do an episode drawing digitally. That would be fun for me. But I'll be honest, this work area that I'm in is kind of crowded. It's not the easiest thing to set up right now, but I think that this would be a really fun tablet to take advantage of at a certain point. I love that. I really want to use it. Hold on, she's messaging me. Oh, she's done. Oh, folks, my poor wife. She works from home, doing all sorts of graphic design and stuff, and she's just had a massive project. For 3 of the last 4 nights, she hasn't gone to bed. She's worked all through the night, just taking power naps here and there, during the day. Oh, I feel for her. She's done. What a cool wife you have. I think she's the best. I'm biased, but I think I lucked out. She sounds like a super babe. Huion. Huion is how you pronounce it? Okay, I'll take your word on that, because I don't know. I have the same one. It is awesome. Oh, that's nice to hear, Marvin Nation. I'm glad to hear that. What was the other thing I wanted to promote? Oh, I just decided this. Some of you who watch my Comic Tropes channel may have seen, about 2 months ago or something, I did an episode where I talk about how, I was a quote-unquote real-life superhero, how I patrolled Seattle for a year with Phoenix Jones in body armor, breaking up fights and helping people that were injured or drunk or lost, all sorts of weird stuff. It was a weird time in my life, but I told that story in an episode. Well, there is now a podcast trying to explain who Phoenix Jones really is, and they interview him, and they interview a lot of the other superheroes that patrolled with him. And since they all participated, I agreed that I would participate. So I'm going to do an interview at some point in the near future. The name of the podcast is The Superhero Complex. I didn't want to just be a guy that was if they didn't talk to Phoenix directly, you know, I didn't want to just pile on to the guy and add to his problems. But, you know, they talked to him directly, and they got opinions of other people around, so I don't feel like I would just be spilling the tea out of turn, you know? I wouldn't be just gossiping out of turn. So I'm gonna do that. So anyway, Omega Comic when? At some point, probably. I don't know. When I find the right artist, I guess. When I find the right artist. Because while I love drawing like this, folks, I definitely want to make it clear. Drawing like this is a pinup. And a pinup is a lot easier than drawing sequential pages. Okay? It just is. It's not the same set of muscles, if you will. It's something... I don't think I'm fast enough, and I don't necessarily think I have the style to do a comic the way I'd want it to sort of be done. So I want to hire an artist. I've got like 2 projects that I'm working on right now, and I need to find a good artist for them, and I need to like prioritize that. One is going to be a horror comic. I feel like it's just a good idea that hasn't been done, and the comics is the way I want to tell that story. And the other might be like telling my superhero year. So we'll see. Just subscribe to the podcast. 4 episodes out already. That's right, Andrew Jefferson. Yeah, the superhero complex is what it's called. And it's not necessarily a flattering look at Phoenix. If anything, though, I feel like that the host is not being skeptical enough about what Phoenix tells him. He's being skeptical and going like, hey, I can't verify this. Guess what? You can't verify most of what is being said. I'll just say that. I'll let you know when I do it, and maybe that'll be interesting. We'll see. But, yeah, I would obviously have, like, you know, plenty of sort of news to talk about there, if that's what the topic is. And if Phoenix was okay participating in it, then I don't feel like I'm going behind anyone's back to talk about what went on at that point in time in my life. And I'm still going to keep some of my personal stories for my comic. But I can talk about the stuff, like just verify things that happened or did not happen. I've got a lot of things going on, and a lot of it is thanks to the show that I'm making. I'm glad that it's creating opportunities for myself. I'm excited to share those with you. I'm almost hesitant to list the 2 things that I just did, of like the fan art getting printed and the podcast, because it hasn't quite happened yet, but they seem like almost sure things. There's a bunch of other things that should be happening soon, but I'm going to hold on to those until I know that there's a certain date or something that is happening. Let's see. Oh, Steve, thank you. Let's see. I had a lousy date with a girl who wanted why she hated Avengers Endgame. I guess she talked about how she hated Avengers Endgame for an hour. Her logic equals Steve and Bucky equals worst movie ever. Huh. I dipped. Well, that's too bad that you didn't like get along there, but you never need to force it when it works, you know? When it works, it works real easy. And it feels almost too easy sometimes. That's my opinion, because went on a lot of dates, had a lot of longer term girlfriends before I met my wife, and then I was just like, wow, this is easy. Nobody told me it could be this nice. It takes me years to complete my graphic novels. Yeah. Oh, who ranted why she hated Avengers Endgame. Got it, Steve. Got it. That makes sense. Wow, Marvin, thank you so much. Let's see what he has to say with this. Hey, Chris, is there any artist or writer that you've already done a show for, but that you would like to revisit? Given how much more experience you have now with the show. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, early on, I was doing episodes on some big names like, hey, Chris Claremont, Frank Miller, Alan Moore, Naoki Urasawa. And these are all people that I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't think I could watch those old episodes. Sometimes I can, but like, I don't rewatch my old episodes, actually. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically. I just sort of like, I'm like, oh, I bet it can't be good. I bet I could do better now. So, interesting question. Yeah, I feel like there are a number of creators I would definitely love to tackle again and hopefully do a better job. I would say that, like, highest on that list right now would probably be Naoki Urasawa. I just want more people to know why I like his work so much. And hopefully I can make that case. Turn some more people on to his comics. Or manga, if you will. Drawing female faces is such delicate work because every line can add years, to them. You have to be so careful with how much you do. Actually, I'm going to expand this shadow here. I feel like I didn't think that just looks weird the way it is. And I don't think I do women too well, but that's why I'm practicing here, right? Hey, there's a heck of a lot more comics news of the week. Why did I stop with that? If you did Kirkman again, would you strip another action figure? No. That was my Garth Ennis episode. Ugh. Terrible. Okay, here's a Doctor Strange. We've got the movie coming out. Personally, I'm excited. I like Doctor Strange okay, but I love director Sam Raimi. So I think it could be really cool. The movie got banned in Saudi Arabia. I bet you all could guess why. It's because they dared to have a gay character in it, America Chavez. Pretty important character for the multiverse, because that's her power, is she can go through the multiverse. Pretty prominent gay character as well. Not weird to have a few of those. They're part of our population. Well, in Saudi Arabia, it is illegal to be gay. So if you have a gay character in a movie, that's almost always an instant, they will not show it. So yeah, as big a movie as it is, and Saudi Arabia is not a small country, folks. They are not going to show it. Wow, Dunphy, thank you. Just for support, your work is appreciated. The super chats are appreciated. It makes a big difference in my day-to-day life as I try to do this as a bit of a career. So wow, thank you. I'm humbled when you guys do that for me. I'm humbled just by you all being here and contributing to the chat, asking questions and giving recommendations and stuff. It's really important. That news is how I learned that America Chavez is gay. Yeah, she just is. It's not like the defining characteristic of her, but she is, and she's going to be in the movie, and it's like, how dare they? So whatever. Yeah, I think it's a mistake, but I hope the movie's good. We'll see, right? We'll see. Hopefully it's good. But I've never seen a Sam Raimi directed movie that I was like, total garbage. And the closest I'd even come would be something like Oz the Great and Powerful. And even that was totally watchable. It just was a little generic for him. I now understand why Frank Quitely is a revolutionary artist because of your video. Would you consider doing a similar video on J.R. Jr.? Yes, I definitely would, Miguel, because while John Romita Jr. doesn't always nail it, what I've noticed is throughout his career, every once in a while, I think if he feels that he isn't considered like top tier, that he goes out and has something to prove. Like, he will come out sometimes and just all of a sudden his books have an insane amount more detail and thought towards the storytelling and the composition and all sorts of other elements. So yeah, I think that like I love a lot of his work, a lot. And I think he starts a new Spider-Man run this week, this Wednesday. I believe J.R. Jr. comes back to Spider-Man, where he's definitely made a name for himself in the past. So let's see what happens here. Could be good. Could be good. Yeah, there's a lot of big names that I've never covered on my show, and sometimes it's because I get nervous that I won't do it justice. So I put it off and I put it off and I put it off. But he's somebody that I personally like a lot, and I would enjoy doing an episode about John Romita Jr.'s techniques and history. But I really do feel that way about him, that he like just goes out with something to prove every once in a while, that every once in a while he gets a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he's like, hey, I can bring it, and he shows us. How is the AC debacle, and why are you not breaking out the old gum? I'm not going to have some of the old gum anymore. That was a mistake I've learned. We still haven't fixed our AC unit, but I think we can afford to once it gets warmer this year, because I sold my old Thunderbird. I had a 1957 Thunderbird, folks, and I got it at a good price. It was always sort of going to be my project car, but it was in great shape. It ran and everything. It didn't have any problems. I just always wanted to get it into like show quality. But with all the bills that I have, I just decided I couldn't hang on to it anymore. But what that means is it probably, I think, gave me the money that I'll need to fix the air conditioning once it starts getting hot this year. I'm pretty sure about that. I've also got like, I've got health bills still from like, it's now been just a notch over a year since I had COVID, but you gotta love the American health system. I've got massive bills from that, even though I had insurance. I'm saying that with a lot of sarcasm, in case you haven't picked up. Like, insurance is crazy. Here. That would be in my, like, top 3 reasons of why I would move to another country. John Romita Jr. had a really bad couple of years in the early 2000s. He was aping Kirby so hard that everyone became boxes. Well, Clay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I think he was trying to go faster with his artwork and possibly come up with a simpler style. And I think he ultimately sort of backed off of that at a certain point. But I got to double check his whole work history to see if I've got that right. Folks, I've got more news. You think I don't have more news? At least you don't get long COVID. I don't think I do, meow. But you never really know. You never know. There is a project being put together to benefit the Ukrainian refugees. Horrible what's going on over there. Comic book editor Scott Dunbier is putting this together. It is called Comics for Ukraine, Sunflower Seeds. And some of the stories are set in the Ukraine. Some of them are more allegorical. For instance, like Stan Sakai is doing a story. I think it's going to be a Usagi Yojimbo story, and it's going to be more about like just invaders, Anyway, a lot of big names contributing to this. They're hoping that like this project will give them profits of between $200,000 to $500,000. And that's all going to Operation USA. That's an LA-based disaster relief agency that's specifically currently helping out Ukrainian war refugees. So first of all, if you think that this is something like, hey, I like buying comics and I like helping out a good cause, this is what you could look into. It's called Comics for Ukraine Sunflower Seeds. The charity, again, is called Operation USA. So do your own research if you're skeptical, like making sure how much overhead there is in an organization, how much of it goes to the actual intended people. But yeah, it's a comic. And listen to some of these names that they've got working on it. These are just some of the names. Alex Ross, Bill Sienkiewicz, that's one of my favorites. Dave Johnson, I was talking earlier about how much I love him. Art Adams, Stan Sakai, Walt Simonson. It's amazing. Anyway, so that could be a really cool project worthy of supporting. Something to keep your eye out for anyway. So just putting that on people's radar to look into. Fingers crossed that it is something that helps people. But that's a lot of like top tier talent. I would imagine a lot of them do their research into what they support. That would be my thought. We'll see. I missed something. Oh yeah, John Romita Jr. is drawing the comic, yeah. Definitely, it's a treat when John Romita Jr. and Bagley get to draw him. Yeah, they're both great Spider-Man artists. Absolutely going to go down in history as like some of the best that have worked on the character. Which is saying something, because Marvel's always trying to put their top talent on Spider-Man and X-Men. You know, their best-selling comics. So... But some of them will stand the test of time in ways that not every single artist will. Let's see. The hair is looking really good. Oh, that's nice of you. It's looking a little lopsided until I like get this, like I'm just going to throw in some blacks here just so that it like doesn't look quite so unbalanced, and then I'll start putting in some of the texture that I need to make this work. And I'll also look at the next piece of news, comic book news. There's lots of comic book news this week. Here's one that I just remember because it's really small. There's a town called Clovis, California. I have no idea where that is. I didn't look it up. But somebody was caught on camera stealing comics from a local comic store there. And to do so, he shoved them down his pants. And what was funny about it all is just that the comic store owner said like that was like really risky, that you could really injure yourself doing that, and he had a sense of humor about it, which is nice because hey, it can't be fun to have your store robbed. He was like, that's a good way to get paper cuts. If you haven't read Amazing Spider-Man recently and like Bagley, do yourself a favor and read issue 89 and 90. Oh, those are like recent ones? I haven't read it recently now. Let's see, Moritaka says apparently Disney are planning to make a comeback to traditional animation soon. Woo, I would like that. Favorite Catwoman writer? I'm biased. I love Ed Brubaker. So, yeah. Brubaker and Darwin Cook for the win for me. Let's see. Here's another piece of news. Okay. Marvel bought Fox quite a while ago. And with it, they got the rights to... did I say Marvel? I meant Disney. But Disney owns Marvel too. So Disney bought Fox, right? And cool. Like, so Marvel was going to do an Alien comic and a Predator comic. Now, the Alien comic came out just fine. It was like about a whole year ago that the Predator comic was supposed to start coming out. It still isn't out. So what? Well, there was a weird lawsuit that came up, like with, you know, the writer of the original, and, you know, they had to, like, find a way to make sure that, like, the rights were all clean and clear, and everybody got paid for what they contributed. But I guess that's finally been resolved, and in July we will finally get to see this new Predator comic from Marvel Comics. It's going to be written by Ed Brisson and artist Kev Walker. I think they did a Doctor Strange run together, if I'm remembering correctly, but I might have that piece of it wrong. I can't quite remember for sure. But anyway, just letting you know that after all this time, that Predator book is finally coming out. And who knows, maybe we'll get to see some more Predator versus Alien stuff at some point. That could be fun. I always kind of like that. I got the first few issues of Marvel's Alien comic. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't quite for me. It wasn't quite the take I was looking for in it. But I'll probably give Predator a chance, because I like Predator 2. Well, I don't mean I like Predator 2, the movie. I mean I also like Predator. There's been, let's see, for good Predator movies, well, Predator 1 is really good. Predator 2 is entertaining for what it is. It isn't great, but it's okay for what it is. And then I liked Predators. That one's underrated. I thought Predators was really cool. That's got like a bunch of dangerous people have all been kidnapped by the alien predators, the Yautja, and taken to their home planet to survive. That's kind of a cool twist on versus, you know, the predators coming to Earth. So that was pretty good. But then that last Predator movie by what's his name? Something Black. Who's the director that did it? He did Iron Man 3, did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He wrote like Lethal Weapon. He sets all his movies at Christmas time. I can't remember his name. Something Black. Anyway, Shane Black. I kept thinking Steve Black. Thanks, T.W. Mangrove. Shane Black. Boy, his Predator movie, I think it was called The Predator. Not good. Not good at all. Very confusing. Very confusing. Let me clean up some of my pencil work here and see what parts I need to still do. Ed Brisson did an Iron Fist run. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thanks. Shane's Black. Nice. Bunch of people telling me Shane Black. Everybody knew but me. Chris is the only one that didn't know what he was talking about. Classic me. But folks, the news doesn't stop there. Oh, no. I'm a rocket man. I love The Mandalorian, if that wasn't clear. It just totally works for me. That is the kind of Star Wars I like. I mean, there's my wedding band. I don't know how well you can see that. You can't see that very well there. Maybe you can see it better here. Yeah. Can you see that? I'll put it down here. That is my wedding band, which is the Mandalorian. That's his visor in black diamonds. I love the Mandalorian. I think it's cool. It's cool. And, folks, there is a comic version of it coming out, but not just any comic. No, we are talking a manga adaptation from Japan. Yeah. It's going to start on May 25th in the anthology. What's it called? The manga anthology is called Big Gangan. That's a seinen. I always mispronounce that, but seinen manga, as in, like, you know, for adults. Just more mature, not too goofy or anything like that. Not porn, just aimed at adults is what it means. And it's that's one of Square Enix's publishing imprints. But yeah, that could be cool. A manga version adapting The Mandalorian. I'm in. I want to see it. I guess I got to go back to Japan. Come on, Japan, open your borders already. Everybody's vaccinated. Don't let us in unless we're vaccinated. That can be a rule. Anyway, we'll see. Which Marvel books best match up with Predator? I hope to see it go up against Punisher or Conan. That'd be so wizard. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, who should Predator fight within Marvel Comics? Oh, Daredevil. Come on, Predator Vision versus, like, Radar Sense? That's like a no-brainer for me. Yeah, I want to see Predator go up against Matt Murdock. I think that would be dope. I think that would be so cool. That just came to me, but come on, that would work. You telling me that wouldn't work? Then you're telling me wrong, buddy. Anyway. Yep. Oops. This is way too dark. I was gonna put in some blacks, but I didn't mean for it to be this dark. It's gonna cover up the artwork. Well, I'm committed now. I'm committed. I'll try to find a way to make this look cool, and then you'll all forgive me. You'll say, Chris, at first I thought that was the stupidest decision you could have possibly made, adding that particular gray. But I've come around. You did it. You did it. Thanks. Appreciate that. I'm terrible at figuring out, like, coloring stuff for, like, you know, where to put the shading and stuff like that. So I'm going to try here. But honestly, I could totally ruin this drawing at this point. This is exciting. It's all on the line at this point. This could be a big mistake. I'm being attacked by the lap gremlin. How's your little bean? Little bean is good as far as I know. That's our cat. But Little Bean is incredibly loyal to Chrissy. So even though she has been up all night working on her, like, work projects, her cat has still, like, hung out with her and stayed awake, basically, just rested near her all night. Like, he hasn't come into the bedroom with the lights off to, like, nuzzle in his usual space in the blankets. No, he wants to just still hang out with Chrissy. That is a loyal cat, folks. Get yourself a cat that's that loyal. Can you believe that? I'm sure you can. But yeah, Chrissy's lucky to have a cat that's that loyal. So he's doing well, as far as I know. But does he want to hang out with me? Not really. This is why I want to get, like, a puppy. But, Chrissy's not convinced that the cat would get along with it. So, that's fair. I love the cat. I don't want him to be unhappy, so we'll see. I have 2. You have 2 cats, right? Who is your favorite Marvel villain? Who is my favorite Marvel villain? Interesting. Probably Doctor Doom. He's just, like, so good at what he does. And yet, he's got this little measure of honor. It's warped, and he'll do whatever he needs to do to get himself ahead, but I like Dr. Doom. I like how smart he is. He'll do just about anything to win. Hey guys, hello. Not as bad as the coloring I did on a practice comic page the other day. I did tell my followers I'd do the next issue of my comic in color, but based on the other day, I may have to go back on my word. Oh no, not Paste Pop Pete. Oh, excuse me, you're right. Paste Pop Pete is my favorite. I take back everything I just said. Good observation there, Andrew. Yeah, my favorite villain is Paste Pop Pete. Not the Trapster, Paste Pop Pete. It's like, dude, you got it right the first time. Don't go changing. You have a big bucket of glue, and you're going to go up against the Fantastic Four. More power to you. That guy... Balls of steel. Right? To go up against... like the Thing, the Human Torch, the smartest man in the Marvel Universe, Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman with her force fields, and he's like, I have glue. This will go well. I have a lot of glue. Okay, buddy. Let us know how that all works out. Do you like the way Dr. Doom has been written more recently? Well, I have to admit, I'm not 100% clear how he's been written recently. I'm just not totally clued into that. Hopefully it's been good, but I don't know. Haven't been reading Fantastic Four or anything lately, so I don't know if it's his best or what. What do we have here? I'm hearing a sound. Is that the cat? No, I guess not. I was hoping the cat was coming to see me. Afraid not. I still have more news. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we're not done yet. We ain't done yet. I just need to also concentrate on getting these grays in properly. Which I will. Don't you worry. It's me. Who's me? Oh! It is the cat. Alright, here's another piece of news. Oh, this is a fun one, too. Here, Little Bean, do you want to be famous? No? Okay. I was about to pick him up, and then he decided to run away. This is fun. There is a public domain character, as in, created during the golden age of comics, totally forgotten, abandoned. Nobody has any trademarks or anything on him. He was called Microface. Microface. Because his power was he had a microphone in his mask. And he figured that, like, that was plenty. The microphone could amplify his voice. It could throw his voice. He did have some extra hearing sensors in his mask so that he could hear from far away. And finally, yeah, he went ahead and put X-ray vision in his goggles. That sounds safe, you know, just blast everyone around you with radiation. Okay, fair enough. Totally forgotten. Well, NPR decided that they wanted to do a project reviving a Golden Age character and making a comic. And they thought that they would have that out a year ago, but as it turns out, making a comic is a little harder than you'd think if you've never made one before. But it's finally happening. I believe now you can go to the NPR shop. You go to the NPR website and look at their shop, and they have comics of Microface. New comics of Microface. They've updated him because they do a podcast type show, and they're like, well, who better to represent us than the guy whose whole power is a microphone in his mask, Microface. So yeah, that could be a lot of fun. I think that's pretty funny. And we will see how it sells, but you might want to check that out. Microface, depending on how big a fan you are of microphones. Isn't this the dude they talked about on Radiolab? Yes, Kale, it absolutely is. Yes, it is. I'm disappointed he didn't have a very small face. No, that's what it sounds like he'd have, right? It sounds like, oh, his name's Microface. He must have been born with a very small face. No, not the case. Not the case at all. Sounds like that would be the case? Not the case. Sounds like it. It is not the case. He had a microphone in his face, and that's why he was called Microface. The wildest part about that comic is that, yeah, like a superhero decided to call himself Microface. Not the technology, not the gimmick or anything. Just that he was like, yeah, I'm going to call myself Microface. It's going to work great. This is a good idea. I feel strongly about this. Okay. You do you. That's very brave in its own way. Calling yourself Microface. Hey, Joe Dent. Can we please have another animated Christmas roast this year? I think they are my favorite videos. A Christmas roast? Do you mean like just of me in front of the fireplace? Or you mean just like doing something about like some crazy Christmas themed comics? Which of those did you mean? And I will take it very seriously because you gave me a super chat, so my solemn promise is to take that seriously. Microface, aka Small Richard. Yeah, that would be a good name. Ant-Man, Dollman, Microface. I want you guys to go stop some crimes. Okay. I'm on it. Hi. Alright. I'm going to give you 3 voices. You tell me which one is Ant-Man, which one is Dollman, and which one is Microface, okay? Here's the first voice. Hi there. I'm a superhero. Okay, here's the next one. Hey, it's me. I'm a superhero. And here's the third one. Hello. I'm also a superhero. Which is which? Ant-Man, Dollman, and Microface. Let me know what you think. Microface's enemy should have been Radiohead. For all we know, maybe it was. For all we know, we're idiots. What do we know? What do we know? I don't know nothing. Not me. Good luck guessing which one was Microface. Andrew Jefferson with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. To me, Nothing tops the wild man raised by birds impersonating a U.S. senator to fight Nazis. That was Black Condor, currently owned by DC Comics. Yes, raised by birds, and that's how he learned how to fly, by being raised by birds. Lost, abandoned, condors raised him, and by watching them, one day he too gained the ability to fly. Could happen. You never know. Could happen. Who are we to say? Dollman and Micro. Oh, I meant when you roasted animated Christmas episodes for Christmas comic tropes. Right, that's right, Joe. Excuse me, I did do that. My favorite of those was the one I did on Rambo. But yeah, I did the Ninja Turtles special. I did an X-Men's Christmas-themed episode. Okay, I'll give that some very serious thought. I'll give that, yeah. I don't know what I'd do right now, but I'll give that some very serious thought. Thank you again for the super chat. Always appreciated. Whoever you are, whatever you're given, means a lot to me. Condors pushed off a cliff, and to their surprise, he flew. Yeah, they didn't mean to teach him. They were just like, get out of my nest. Oh, crap, he's flying. Alright, I guess... Huh. Alright. Guess what? We've got a new member of the family. This is Black Condor. He's a human. Don't hold that against him. He can fly like the rest of us. He can fly like an eagle. What I should have done, if I was being smart, and I wasn't, just to be clear, is when I started drawing this, I should have started with the lightest gray, and then slowly worked my way to the darkest gray. That's if I was smart. Folks, let me disabuse you of that right now. I am not smart. Would a smart man talk nonstop about comics? Would a smart man have a job as a used car salesman? No. No, a smart man goes to college and becomes a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. Always. Without fail. I'm not a smart man, Jenny. Perfect Forrest Gump impression for you. If you stayed this long, yeah, you get the good impressions. Beginning of the show, not so good. You stay till the end, you get the best impressions. That's just how this show works. I save the best for the people that are loyal and stay with me this long. I don't think I heard, but did anybody talk about like any comics that they got in this past week that they would recommend to other people? Because I'm always curious what people are reading, what they recommend. I'm not a smart man, Johnny. Hi, Preston. Jim Lee went to school to be a doctor and ended up becoming comic sensation Jim Lee. Well, my buddy Ken Jeong went to school to be a doctor and ended up being both a doctor and the world's most accomplished thespian. So, you never know. You never know. I'm not a smart man, Jenny. Oh, Forrest. You Forrest Gump. I have taken your advice from previous stream, that's always a good idea, and have made a career by selling comic book art. Good for you! Wow! Comic Book John says, I'm still enjoying the nice house on the lake. Waiting for a Lionel Hutz impression. Lionel Hutz. Oh, that was Phil Hartman's character on Simpsons, right? Oh, hi. You might remember me from such movies as Gone in 60 Years and The Fast and the Cranky. I don't know what movies he would have been in. If you're watching this, you're here to hear about cars insurance. Car insurance can really help you. I miss Phil Hartman. He was amazing. Just a great, really hilarious guy. I got Kill the Witch manga by Tite Kubo of Bleach fame. Okay. I read Yotsuba Volume 14 and 15. Recently purchased some more issues of the Neil Adams Batman run. The art has aged well. Okay. I got the newest Astro City one-shot and the new Astro City trade paperback that collects the first 2 volumes. Look at all of you! The new World's Finest run has its 2nd issue this week. It's so much fun. I can't wait to look at it. Lionel Hutz was the lawyer. Thank you, Daniel. So he'd be like, Judge, I'm not a smart man, but I am here to tell you one thing I do know about the law. It has to be decided in a court. We will take this new information under advisement. In another life, I might have enjoyed being a voice actor. It's probably annoying to hear impressions and stuff, but I love doing voices. I just love it. That's Troy McClure. Yeah. Okay, sorry, everybody. The new Sandman book was really good fun. It sure is, Billy. It sure is. There's still time? No, not for me. Oh, Andrew. No, there's no time for me to become a voice actor now. You have no idea how old I am. Folks, just to be clear, I'm 68 years old. No. Every opportunity for me is well in the past at this point. Oh, I'm far too old for any of that. For any of that nonsense and tomfoolery. Yeah, you know what? So Phil Hartman did a couple voices on The Simpsons until he died, until he was killed, and one thing that I always thought was really cool was he was in the process of developing a live-action Simpsons movie that would just be about his character, Troy McClure, the actor, who was in all sorts of weird movies. And wow, that is a fantastic idea. I swear to God, that would have catapulted Phil Hartman to another level of stardom. I just am convinced that that's a great idea for the premise of a movie. And I'm convinced it would have worked really well. But His wife killed him, so we didn't get it. Because that's the world we live in. Who's being drawn? This is a very obscure Batman character known as Catwoman. She's a woman who acts like a cat whenever possible. Whenever she can, she acts like a cat. And I'm in the process of putting in whatever final touches I have to devote to this piece. Just tuned in. No problem. Thank you. Wait, are you actually 68 years old? You don't look that old. Yeah, you're right. I'm not 68. I'm 65. I definitely don't look 68. All right, you guys got me. I'm 78. Thought I could get away with being called 68, but you're right. I'm 68. I was born in, doing the math in his head, the 30s, I want to say. Yeah, let's stay with that. I was born in the 30s. You look 69? Yeah. Phil Hartman is also the original Zombie on the Pee Wee Herman special. Yep. And he also co-wrote the first Pee Wee's Big Adventure movie, which is easily the best Pee Wee movie. Gave Tim Burton his career. Kind of weird that Tim Burton never really wanted to like revisit that on any level, now that I think of it, because he did so well. Oh well. Anyway, Phil Hartman was great. And you know who's also great? A little someone called Stan Lee. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. Let me jump back to a really cool gray for this little guy. Yeah. Ooh, that's a zipper. Silver. Doot, doot. The cool thing about working with Copics is they really blend. They're alcohol based, so you can like really sort of blend, if depending on how much time you're willing to spend, you can really blend the colors together and help give it like, you know, more organic, sort of natural shading techniques. You can really blend this stuff really well. I like it. I like it a lot. Chris, I'm 99 years old. I'll be 100 later this year. Oh, well, I'm 115, so I guess I still win. I'm 115 years old. $115. It's not easy to get this old, folks. I don't know why you think it would be. It's so strange that you'd all think it's easy to become 115 years old. Oh well. in there. Put this in here. That goes there. World's oldest person just passed away. She was 118. Is that the oldest anyone's ever gotten, though? Or I wonder if there's, like, somebody that's made it older than that. I feel like there was a dog that made it longer than that, right? It's a dog that got, like, to be a few years older than 118. Which in dog years was something like 879 years old. I don't know. I feel like that's a thing. If I'm wrong, don't correct me. I want to believe in this, that there was a dog that got to be over 100 years old. I heard it takes a long time to become 115. Not as long as you'd think. Takes about 40 years or so to become 115. You just have to be really patient, but yeah, if you're patient within like a certain amount of time, you can become 100 years old. What is your favorite color? Gray. No, wait. Ask me again. I'll say it. Prestonart asks, what is your favorite color? Blue. No, clear. What? Do you get it? I hope you just got that joke. What is your favorite color? Blue. You may pass. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I can do that. If I was answering more seriously, I would say my favorite color might be blue, but I do like grays. I like gray a lot. I like them together, too. Monty Python. Thank you, Miguel. Favorite Monty Python movie, asks T.W. Mangor. Holy Grail. I love it. What is the capital of Assyria? I'll say Abysmia. I don't know. I don't get it. Fair. It's a joke from a movie. This turned out amazing. I don't understand how you do that. Just trying my best. Being patient. So, I think we got through this, and so, where we started, where we ended up. I don't know if it's necessarily that much better, but hopefully there was at least some sort of a journey there that I went on. All right, folks. I think that will do it for the show this week. There's a lot of comics coming out next week. But it was fun talking with you all about like comic book news. Thank you for the super chats and stuff. Appreciate all that. I really love monochromatic coloring where you use different shades of the same color, especially when people do it with blue or red. Yeah, definitely. That woman, Catwoman. No, very good. Oh, I mean, no says very good. Thank you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you all here to do a show with. That means a lot to me. I'm excited. I've got a silly episode coming out this week. I came across a Golden Age character that I was not familiar with before. I think it's totally wild premise, and so every once in a while we just have fun with a more lighthearted episode. But as you saw at the beginning of the show, got episodes I'm working on about Mike Allred, Stan Sakai, Larry Hama, a wide variety, and that's just some. But I am going to take off, folks, and I hope you have a good week. You will see me Sunday with a new Comic Tropes episode, and yeah, just please consider hitting things like and subscribe. That always helps the channel. And here's something very silly. On this channel, Pros and Cons, if you look at the latest video that I uploaded that was not Pros and Cons, like about 2 days ago or something, I uploaded a 45-second, very silly video. If you've been to the movie theaters lately, hopefully you'll like it. But anyway, when's the next Comic Tropes coming out? Always Sunday. Always Sunday. 8 out of 10 on this butt, too. Yeah, this is a good butt, right? This is overall a pretty good butt. Maybe not necessarily as good as Storm Shadows, but it's up there. Thanks, everyone. I'm taking off. Keep reading comics.